Thursday, September the 29th. It is currently 9 p.m. Central Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And right now, PLAR History and Geography begins right now. My name is Jonathan, and I am your teacher for this course. We're in Sulago right here at WASA. We're at the end of week number 4. This is term 1A. Again, you can get a hold of me at any time simply by giving me a call. There's my cell phone number on evenings and on weekends. Email, feel free to send me an email. Fax, Facebook. Again, all those materials are the exact same thing if you need to get a hold of me. Again, call the WASA studio if you want to listen and participate. And if you have internet, please log on to Smart Bridget. That way you can see what we're posting and discussing for tonight. Over the next hour, 50 minutes, give or take, we will be wrapping up lesson number 2. We're going to finish that off. We got one more section that we need to cover, and then that's done for lesson 2. And then we'll start lesson 3 tonight if we have time. If not, that's all right. We'll start it next week on week number 5. Before we begin, just a little announcement. Myself, Barb Matusik, and Ruby Morris, we will be traveling to Big Trout. Yes, Big Trout. So all of my students in Big Trout, I look forward to seeing everyone there right after Thanksgiving during week number 6. We'll be there on the Tuesday, and we'll be gone on the Wednesday. Again, more details about that next week. I will probably be switching class with Andrea that week. Again, I will confirm everything and double check everything, and I'll remind everyone all the confirmation details next week live in class. And I'll always will post it on my Facebook link as well. So just keep in mind, week 6, that Tuesday right after Thanksgiving, myself, Barb, and Ruby will be in Big Trout. Again, I'm excited. Never been to Big Trout, and I look forward to it like always. All right, let's get to today's class. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to stop me. Don't mind modifying and accommodating as we go along throughout the nights. So lesson number 2, what we need for tonight, again, is your workbook and your textbook, where we will be focusing on just 2 pages in your textbook. Again, very short lesson, but I do have some other content that I have plugged in as well for additional information. So page 16 and page 17 is all we need for tonight, or for this lesson, I should say. So tonight's lesson is called After the War, or After the Second World War. Again, keep in mind that the Second World War concluded in 1945. Again, if you have missed any of our other classes this week or last week, and you're not sure what really happened during the Second World War, go back to the WASA archive page or onto my YouTube channel. You can click on it, watch it, and listen to it back then. So we're going to focus on what happened after the Second World War. So probably in the 40s and then early 50s, give or take. And we're going to really focus on some defense organizations or some defense groups that have been created and have emerged after the Second World War. So again, right there. So let's get to our learning goals. We're really focusing on the social, political, and military aspect for today's class. Again, we'll be discussing what happened around the world, here in Canada, and how it impacts Canada's growth and relations and so forth. So our learning goals, some key topics that we'll be discussing are, according to your textbook, will be the Bill of Rights, and then we'll be talking about the Charter of Rights and Freedom in 1982, the Charter for short. Then we'll be focused on defense organization such as NATO, something that we still have today, and NORAD, again, something we still have today as well. And then I'm going to plug in there the UN, or the United Nations. Those are the main topics that we will be focusing on, and those are the topics that will be discussed on assignment number 6. Again, assignment 6, very short lesson. We'll go over those questions again in details like always. Any questions, students in class, before we start? Again, feel free to call in the Wausau studio and feel free to log on to Smart Bridget either at your learning center in your community or at the comfort of your home as well, if you have internet access. Whatever works. All right, let's begin. We shall begin. So we're going to begin today's class with some bit of background content that I'm going to plug in. This is the period that took place after the Second World War, and it's called the Cold War. It's not an actual physical war that took place. It's called the Cold War because a lot of tension and suspense built up, but there was no actual physical battles that took place. Hence why it was called the Cold War. So again, this took place in the 50s, 60s, give or take, and it really lasted up until the 1990s. So a long stretch of tension, conflict, suspense around the world, the Cold War. So the Cold War was mainly between capitalism and communism, with the United States and the Soviet Union, the USSR. So after the Second World War, two major superpower nations emerged, the United States and the Soviet Union, which is modern-day Russia. So the Soviet Union and the United States emerged as the two superpower nations during this time period. Okay, just keeping that in mind. So after the Second World War, the Soviet Union and communism started to expand into Eastern Europe. Okay, so visualize a map of modern-day Russia and visualize a map of Europe and how the Soviet Union starts to expand and take over Eastern Europe. The United States had fear that communism and the Soviet Union would continue expanding and eventually take over the world. Again, this is a political battle based on capitalism and communism. Okay, these two nations, the Soviet Union and the United States, started to develop a lot of atomic weapons or nuclear weapons. And as we know, atomic weapons or nuclear weapons can be really deadly if they get out of control. It was really an arms race. Again, after the Second World War, there was still high level of maintenance based on military and army based on these two nations. Again, everyone wanted to have the upper hand based on militarism, wealth, and so forth. So again, this built a lot of tension because we didn't know what was going to happen. One nation could strike at any point. So a lot of people and citizens started to take precaution. So people started to build bomb shelters in their backyard. They talked about it in school. They practiced it even in schools as well. It even went so far that it even expanded into outer space. Okay, again, a lot of tension and suspense. In 1961, the Berlin Wall was built that divided Germany in half into Western and Eastern. For Canada's sake, we were not known as a superpower, but we were considered as a middle power. Again, we continue our growth based on international affairs, as a nation, as an identity. So we were now considered as a middle power, not a superpower, but a middle power. Okay, so again, this is the period of the Cold War, a lot of tension. So something needed to be done. Okay, something needed to be done based on human rights. Okay, myself, all my students, all my colleagues and staff here at WASO, citizens, public, everyone, okay, we all have legal and human rights, or we should, I should say. So as we track back, I think last class where we talked about the Holocaust. Okay, the Holocaust. Again, that was a pretty dark moment in world history. And again, a lot of human rights were violated because of the Holocaust. And as a result of the Holocaust, as you remember, something needed to be done so that that absolutely never happens again. So we witnessed the horror against the Jews in Europe, otherwise known as the Holocaust, where again a mass murder happened on a Jewish population in Germany and Europe. Again, a dark period in history, not fun. So something needs to be done. So during this time period, Canada started to change its laws. Okay, so Canada started to take some steps and started to change some laws that will recognize and protect human rights. Okay, human rights. Also, during this time period, the 50s and the 60s, again, it was a period of peace in a way and prosperity, if we think about it. Peace and prosperity. It was a period of optimism, and Canada is beginning to determine its own identity. Again, still a lot of growth, a lot of progress has been made, but we are continuing that progress. Your textbook, page 16, talks about the Bill of Rights that was established in 1958. Okay, the Bill of Rights. Okay, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, 1958. It was created and adopted by Canada's Prime Minister, John Diefenbaker. So the Bill of Rights was a step forward. Okay, it was a progress. It wasn't the final product, but it was a step in the right direction. The Bill of Rights basically is simply just a law. Okay, it's just a law that recognized and spoke upon the fundamentals of freedom, legal rights, equality, or equality before the law, I should say. Okay, so those are the main factors that came out of the Bill of Rights. So now, first time ever, we have a law that recognizes fundamental freedom between citizens, myself and you, and everyone else. Legal rights, okay, if you get arrested and so forth, there are now steps or measures being taken out. And equality, okay, trying to reduce discrimination, inequality, and unfair treatment. Okay, so the Bill of Rights spoke upon, again, like I want to emphasize, the fundamental freedoms, the legal rights, and equality. Like I mentioned, the Bill of Rights is simply just a law. Okay, it's just another law. It had no more power other than, or any other laws, I should say. It's just a law. It had no provision of official languages. It was not a part of the Constitution. And if another law was discriminatory, the Bill of Rights was not helpful. And the Bill of Rights simply just applied to only federal law, not provincial laws. Okay, so keep that in mind. The Bill of Rights. Okay, the Bill of Rights. So as a result of the Bill of Rights in 1958, simply it was just another law. So we needed something more. Okay, so I need something more that would absolutely recognize human rights. And in 1982, Pierre Elliott Trudeau expanded the Bill of Rights and created something known as the Charter of Rights and Freedom in 1982. Okay, again, this is on page 16 in your textbook. So the Bill of Rights, again, is simply just a law that recognizes fundamentals and legal rights and so forth. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it's exactly the same thing as the Bill of Rights, but it has more meat into it. Why? Because it is actually entrenched into the Constitution. Ooh, big words right there. Entrenched into the Constitution, which means that the Charter, I should say in short form, is now the supreme law in Canada. Okay, it's the supreme law in Canada. It overrides any other laws that we have, whether it's provincial or federal. So the Charter of Rights and Freedom takes precedence absolutely over everything. Okay, so now Canada has the power to make its own rules and laws changes without the permission from Britain. So with the Charter entrenched into the Constitution, Canada can now do whatever it wants. Okay, we're now absolutely away from Britain. We have established our own little identity, and now we can change laws and modify it as we wish. Again, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms recognize and protect legal rights. It improves the ability of Canadians to participate in society. Protection against minority and unfair treatment. And it applies to everyone. Okay? Everyone. Wait, well, if you're a Canadian citizen, okay? So it applies to everyone that is a Canadian citizen. And no one is above the law. Okay? No one is above the law. Or no one is above the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Okay? So, a very powerful statement. Huge stepping stone in terms of Canada's foundation that we have nowadays, the Charter of Rights and Freedom. Very significant and important document that was created. Again, it talks all about what was mentioned in the Bill of Rights, but it talks about more. What kind of more, you may ask, Jonathan? Well, let me tell you. So the Charter. Okay, so if you Google the Charter of Rights and Freedom, it'll take you to this page, and it absolutely lists all of the Charter and what it means, and all these documents and so forth. So it talks about fundamental freedoms. Okay, fundamental freedoms basically recognize the freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, opinion. Okay. It also have democratic rights. The right to vote if you meet the legal age. Democratic rights. Mobility rights, such as entering, leaving, remaining in Canada, or moving around different provinces. Mobility rights. Again, legal rights. The right to life, liberty, security of a person. Okay, so if you get arrested or charged or something, now there are steps. Okay, you have legal rights. Okay, you're not guilty until you're proven it. Okay, and Section 15 talks about equality rights. Equality rights. Equality rights, equal protection, equal benefits, no discrimination. Okay, so that is Section 15. Again, it talks about all the factors such as race, ethnicity, origin, gender, mental, physical disability, and so forth. There are now no more discrimination. So if you're being discriminated, you can refer back to the Charter and be like, hey, you cannot say that or do that because it is not equality. Okay, we're now treated equally and fairly now. Okay, so the Charter, huge part in how we live our lives nowadays. Again, a little picture of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the father of our current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. So his father, when he was Prime Minister, signed this document with our Queen Elizabeth, to make it official. So boom, it is entrenched into our Constitution. Something that I want to point out that relates to Indigenous content is Section 35 of the Charter. I have the quote on my screen. You can always go back and check it out or Google it. But basically, Section 15, subsection 1 and subsection 2 basically says it recognizes First Nation Aboriginal people rights. It's the first time ever. Okay, when I mean first time ever, I mean first time ever in Canadian history that Aboriginal people rights have been recognized. Okay, again, not a huge stepping stone. Okay, you're recognized as a person. So, like a quote in subsection 2 of section 35, Aboriginal people of Canada includes Indian, Inuit, Métis people of Canada. First time ever, again, Aboriginal people recognize or rights are now recognized. Again, strong voices are being heard and strong steps are taking place. Again, something that I would like to point out right there. Again, for more information and details about the Charter of Rights, simply just Google it. We can talk about it all day long and why it's significant and all that, but again, very important in terms of how we live a life. Something that I also want to point out is these two terms, equality and equity. Okay, I use the word equality a lot in terms of our lectures and our class, but another word that I want to bring up is equity. Okay, equity. We kind of know what equality means. Okay, equality simply means fair. No, it means sameness. And equity simply means fair or fairness. Okay, so think of equality simply means what is fair, what is justice, given the same, okay, hence why the platform are the same, okay, think of same, okay, but equality could simply just work if we start from the same place, okay, that kind of makes sense. So equality means sameness, starting from the same points, fairness, justice, given the same. However, equity, okay, EQUITY, equity, means fairness, okay, fairness. Making sure people have the same access to the same opportunity is equity, okay. So equity, making sure people get the same access or the same opportunity. However, there are barriers and challenges that comes with equity. Okay, it could be social economic factors, ethnicity, simply history, gender, and different learning styles. Okay, so that's equity. So a lot of accommodation and modification. Okay, equity. Okay. Again, something that I like to point out. Again, we cannot have equality without equity. So we need to think about equity before we can think about equality. Okay. Again, something I would like to little point out right there. Continuing with today's class, we're going to talk about a new international era. But before we do that, I noticed that we got Fort Hope that just called in the Wausau studio. Hi there, Fort Hope. Hopefully Fort Hope can hear us tonight. Hopefully it's Laura again in Fort Hope. It could be Rebecca as well, but it could be any other student as well. Okay, well, hopefully Fort Hope is still with us and they can communicate with us and say hello to us and see how they're doing tonight. But that's great. Again, that goes towards all communities. Again, please, I encourage, call in, listen, participate, ask questions. If you need help with your assignments, again, I'm more than happy to help out. That's what I'm here for. Okay. Is Fort Hope there with us tonight? Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Is this Laura? It sounds like Laura.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura. How are you tonight?
Alright.
You all right? Anything new and exciting happening right now in Fort Hope?
No.
No, just working on your assignments and having fun like always.
Yeah.
Ah, sounds great. Good. Uh, Basically where we are right now, Laura, is that we're just working on going through the content for assignment number 6. Uh, Before I continue with my lecture in today's class, like always, do you have any questions or need any help with your assignments? I believe you're still working on assignment 4 and currently working on assignment 5, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Laura?
Yeah.
Yeah, so assignment 5?
What segment are you on? 5?
What I'm talking about right now deals with assignment number 6. But which assignment are you working on right now? I believe we chatted on Tuesday and you told me that you're working on assignment 4 or just finishing up 4 and starting assignment 5, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Well, hopefully Laura is still there with us and she can um, sort out which assignment she's working on and or if she needs any help with their assignments. Uh, Hopefully she's still there with us. Again, I don't mind stopping class and accommodating and modifying my lessons if you guys need any help. So hopefully Laura is still there with us in Fort Hope. But that's great that she called in. Oh, there she is. I think she just logged on to Smart Bridget. And now she can see our screen. Again, I noticed that it's currently like hunting week or cultural week in our northern communities right now. So some communities are not operating on the normal schedule hours, which is all right. But again, any effort is great. So in the meantime, class, I'm gonna just continue in lecturing the next couple slides, and hopefully Laura is still there with us in Fort Hope, and she can see our screen now. Now that she logged on to Smart Bridget, and we'll finish off this lesson. Again, a few more topics to talk about. Try to zip through them, and then I'll hopefully will have some time to help any other students if they need any difficulties. And if we do have even more time, we'll begin lesson number 3. And again, I promise we'll finish off history lesson 3 next week, and then we'll start geography. Okay, well, then we'll start geography. Alrighty, a new international era. Okay, so during this time period after the post-war, and I mean post-war, I'm talking about after the Second World War, Canada entered a period of more desire to participate in world affairs. Canada quickly became a major player on the world stage. So now we're going to talk about 3 key factors in the next couple slides: the UN, the United Nations, NATO, and NORAD. Okay, again, all this is on page 17 in your textbook. Again, if you don't have your textbook, I think we have a little problem. So again, talk to your DC, let me know, and hopefully we can figure that out. Because again, you do need your textbook. All right, UN, United Nations. So UN, short form, stands for United Nations. It was created by a whole whack of different countries: Britain, United States, China, the United Soviet Socialist Republic, as well. But that's not important. What we need to know is that what UN goals are and its purpose. So the UN is basically the evolved form of the League of Nations. So if you remember back in the World War One, the League of Nations emerged after the war in order to create peace. However, that was simply not successful, and now we have something known as the UN. Okay, so same purpose, same goals, but a bit more. Okay, a bit more. Some goals that the UN really want to emphasize. Again, I'm going to highlight this. Question on assignment 6 will ask about the UN. So the goals of the UN, again, Canada is a part of the UN and a whole whack of other countries as well. They bond together, create this little organization called the UN. The purpose of the UN is to prevent future wars, maintain international peace and security, improve quality of life, promote world peace, protect respect for basic human rights, work together to solve issues such as economic, social, cultural as well, and develop friendly relationships with one another. Okay, again, sounds super familiar with the League of Nations, but again, mainly to prevent future wars, creating bond friendships with one another, creating peace, improving life and equalities, and promoting human rights around the world as well. Okay, so that's a simple goal of the UN. So again, the goals of the UN. Again, like I mentioned, Canada is a part of the UN. Okay, so we are a part of it, and we do have kind of specific roles that we play in the UN. So Canada's role in the UN, again, is in your textbook, page 17, if you want to refer back to it. Canada's role in the UN is to play a role of peacekeeping or peacekeepers. Okay, so we go to different countries. For example, if a country is in a state of emergency or if they had a natural disaster, we would go over there, promote peace, send supplies if they need it, and help in other ways such as aids, medical supplies, creating peace, and so forth. That is Canada's goal. So again, peacekeeping or peacekeeper is something that we can be extremely proud of based on our roles. So Canada is also willing to serve and uphold and to prevent future wars, has an international reputation for fairness, and demonstrate moving away from British Empire. Okay, so that's Canada's main goal within the UN. Okay, peacekeeping, maintaining peace, not creating conflict, and so forth. Okay, so that's Canada's role in the UN. Again, please make note of that. That is on page 17, and there will be a question on assignment 6 that will ask for it. Next, NATO. Capital NATO, NATO. Again, please know what NATO stands for. NATO. NATO stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Okay, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I'll underline it in green. It was established in 1949. Basically, what NATO is that, again, not a little defense organization. So, for example, in your textbook, it states that if United States, Canada, or any other European countries that are a part of NATO and they are under attack, other countries will have to come and aid as well. Okay, so that is the goal of NATO. That's what it stands for. So basically, if a whole bunch of alliance and protection, so whoever's a part of NATO and if they're under attack, other members of NATO will have to come and aid as well. Again, it is the idea of protection, provision, and preparation. Again, remember, like I mentioned, this is a period of the Cold War. People had fear of communism and their aggression of the Soviet Union or the USSR. So NATO is basically made up of alliance made up of Christian and democratic countries, simply non-communist nation. So some countries are included and some countries are excluded from NATO. Again, simply just a treaty. Again, this is Canada's first signed military treaty. So NATO. NATO. Again, it was made up simply to go up against the fear of the Soviet Union and the fear of communism. Again, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and so forth. Again, I do have a map of NATO. There we go. So whatever's highlighted in dark blue, so for example, Canada, United States, and a whole whack of other European countries are part of NATO. Again, wherever's highlighted in dark blue, those are members of NATO. Okay. Again, we still have it today. It is a big factor that's going on into the United States presidential election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, whether or not they like NATO or we should negotiate with NATO and so forth. But that's a different story. But again, NATO, significant, still have it today, still plays a key role in terms of political and military factors. So, in 1955, what happened was that West Germany decided to join NATO. So West Germany joined NATO. And the Soviet Union didn't really like that. So 8 days later, they retaliated and created their own little group known as the Warsaw Pact. Okay, the Warsaw Pact. So the Warsaw Pact, same purpose as NATO, but it consisted of the Soviet Union and other Eastern European countries. Okay, Eastern European countries, mainly communist nations at that point in time. So whatever's highlighted in red, so mainly the Soviet Union, modern day Russia, and Eastern Europe, they form a group known as the Warsaw Pact, and they fairly much had opposite viewpoints of NATO. Again, the Warsaw Pact, we don't have it nowadays anymore. We could, but it could be under a different name. But the main player that we need to focus on is NATO. Last topic for tonight is NORAD. NORAD. So what is NORAD? Created in 1958. So NORAD, capital N-O-R-A-D, stands for North American Aerospace Defense Command. The North American Aerospace Defense Command. Hint, North American. As a result, it contains Canada and the United States. So NATO, again, created in 1958, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. Again, class, remember that name. Was an agreement between Canada and the United States. How I like to see it is that it is United States influence played upon Canada. Okay, American influence on Canada. Again, that can be a whole another factor that we talked about basically on American influence in Canada. But again, this is just one example of American influence on Canada. So NATO, again, is a part of a defense organization. It simply just monitors man-made objects in space, such as advanced missiles and so forth. Okay, it provides warning signs against planes or missiles if either Canada or the United States are under attack from the Soviet Union based on their aggression and the nuclear warheads. A lot of Canadians agreed upon this. They liked NORAD because we feared in danger or being under attack from the Soviet Union back then. In the end, NORAD was really successful, but again, it really gave up Canada's own independence and gave our own control to the United States. But again, it was very, very successful. In other words, NATO protections on Canada's Atlantic side from attack on the Soviet Union or Russia. So again, remember, Cold War, Russia or Soviet Union were creating all these atomic bombs. So NORAD is basically an air defense system. So the purpose was to search out enemies, bombers, and destroy them before they hit Canada or United States. On alert for 24 hours. There are 3 lines. One line is called the DEW line, the distance early warning line. So again, on my screen, you can see that there's 3 lines. Okay, the Pine Tree radar line, the Mid Canada line, and the DEW line. Okay, So these are actual defense that we have. So again, up here we have the Soviet Union. Again, we had fear that they would plan or attack, nuclear weapon attack on North America, United States, and Canada. So again, we have these radar system lines that would detect them that are coming from outer space or so forth. Okay. Again, that's all on page 17 in your textbook. To conclusion of the 1950s, well, like I mentioned, the Cold War continued until the 1990s. So the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. So all these nuclear weapons build up and tension between communism and capitalism, Soviet Union, United States. It lasts until the 1990s, where Gorbachev changed rules and the fall of the Communist Party. And then we had the emergence of modern-day Russia and so forth. Again, that all lasts until the 1990s. But in the 50s, it was a period of the baby boom. Okay, we have recognized that term of the baby boom or baby boomers. So a lot of our parents, my generation at least, are part of the baby boomers. Okay, what made them significant was that there was a lot of babies being born during this decade, around 40 million. Okay, so again, after World War II, everyone came home, they were happy, they were making and popping out a lot of babies. Again, 40 million. Okay, again, that really increased Canada's population. Again, very significant as well. Again, something that's not in the textbook that I just wanted to plug in there and shared. All right, let's get to assignment 6. Go over these questions. We'll chat with Laura in Fort Hope. Hopefully she's still there with us right now. And then go from there. Hopefully we can still have some time and start lesson number 3, something that I would like to do. But before we do that, let's go over assignment 6. Very short assignments, 9 marks. Again, class doesn't get easier and simpler than this. Again, continue to work on your assignments. Submit them whenever you can. Again, don't be discouraged. Don't give up. I know it can be tough at times. I know you want to give up and just stop. But again, remember, we're here to help. I'm here to help if you need any help with your assignments. Assignment 6, 9 marks. Question number 1 simply asks, why did Canada feel it was necessary to create the Bill of Rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedom? Okay, so what happened? Okay, I'm looking for what happened. Hint, hint to Holocaust. Why was it necessary? Okay, and outline what these laws were designed to do. Okay, so look at the Bill of Rights, look at the Charter. What were these laws designed to do? Think of fundamental freedoms, think of equalities, think of legal rights, and so forth. Okay, that's out 3 marks. Question 2, what was the main function of the United Nations? Okay, so the UN, what was the goal and purpose of the UN? If you remember what the goal of the League of Nations were, boom, you just answer that question. What was the function of the UN? Okay, again, maintaining peace, establishing human rights, not preventing any future wars, and so forth. Again, 2 marks. What is the function, main function of the UN? Question 3 and question 4 deals with NATO and NORAD. Number 3, what does NATO stand for? Okay, NATO, NATO, what does that stand for? Okay, what does that stand for? Okay, and what was this purpose? Okay, a mark for telling me what NATO stands for and its purpose. Okay, question 4, same thing. What does NORAD stand for? And its purpose. Again, doesn't get any easier than this, okay, class? Okay, again, remember, full, complete sentences, details, no jot notes. Again, we're always trying to improve are reading, writing, literacy skills. Okay. Again, if you're not sure, let me know. Okay, and I can tell you if you're writing in complete sentences or not. Okay, let me know. Again, you can always resubmit assignments. Okay, you can submit them 100 times, and I will remark them 100 times. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So if you submit something and you don't like your mark for some reason, it's not the end of the world. You can always change it, and I'll remark it. But again, most of the time, there are no problems with anyone's assignments. Everyone's on the right track. Everyone's progressing well. Again, hopefully my feedback will help improve your learning as well. So that right there, class and students, is assignment number 6. Out of 9 marks, 4 question, boom, boom, simple right there. Lesson number 2 is now done. Okay, is now done. Doesn't mean that history is done. Doesn't mean that history is done. You can start lesson number 3. Okay, we can start lesson number 3. But before we do that, I know we have a bit of time. Laura and Fort Hope are still there with us right now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Perfect. Any questions? Any comments? Anything you want to say, share? Anything that you need help with?
No, I'm just getting confused here. My
Oh,
papers.
your papers are getting confused, or are you getting confused? I don't want you to be confused, Laura.
I'm confused. Just kidding. I'm just trying to sort out my papers.
Okay. But does PLAR history and geography, well, PLAR history makes sense? Does everything make sense so far? In terms of your assignments, in terms of my class and all that? It's okay if your papers are confused. I don't want you to be confused, that's all.
Yeah, I'm still behind though.
Oh, that's okay. That's definitely okay. That's okay. All right. Are you working on assignment 4, Laura, or assignment 5? It's okay if not
4.
4. Okay, that's fine. You're not super far behind. So again, just continue to work on that. Again, if you have any questions, this is the perfect time to ask. Okay. Again, don't be shy. Okay, don't be discouraged. If you're not sure, just let me know. Okay, that's what I'm here for. Okay.
And I still need to do number 4 and assignment.
Assignment 4 and assignment number 5.
And I know I'm in number 4.
Number
I
4.
don't know what's the time.
Any particular questions
I
on
forgot
assignment?
about the first.
On
Oh,
assignment?
never mind.
No, you're okay. You sure? All right. Again, Laura. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay. Give me a call, Facebook me, email me, come to class, tell me questions. Okay. I'm more than happy to help out. Okay. Just keep that in mind. All right. So again, class, I just want to emphasize it's okay that if you're a bit behind or if you're a bit ahead, it's not the end of the world. Just continue where you left off. As long as you keep working on your assignments, you're on the right track. Okay, it's on the right track. Again, I know that some students are working, have family, have other courses that they're currently working on. That's all okay too, and I take that all into account. But again, continue to work on those assignments. If you need help, let me know. And again, if you're done an assignment, submit them. That way I can mark them and not just wondering whether you're active or disappeared on me and so forth. Okay? So we got about 5 minutes. Again, I want to use that 5 minutes to help anyone if they have any questions. But again, feel free to use those last 5 minutes to work on your assignments. Could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Or you could be working on geography, give or take. Or if you want, you can use it to work on other class materials. Okay? But before we call it a night, we're going to start lesson number 3. Okay? Lesson number 3 mainly deals with Quebec, the province of Quebec, and Canada leading up into present day, otherwise known as free trade, and the Constitution Act, and so forth. Okay, so we won't get into huge details. Again, we'll wrap up lesson number 3 next week, week number 5, live right here in class. But we can talk about a few things since we have some time, some background content. So we'll start this lesson, which is meant for next week, but it's simply called Quebec separatism. Quebec separatism. Lesson number 3 starts on page 19 in your textbook. We're moving along in our timeline. We're looking at the decade of the 60s. Okay, the 60s, but we're going back and really focusing on Canada, the major events that took place in Canada. Okay, so we're kind of looking at the social aspect. Okay, not so much more about economics and military, but the cultural and the social impact and values that impact citizens and everyday lives. Okay, the social aspect. Okay. All right, one slide. What was Canada like in the 60s? Simple. Prime Minister was Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Mr. Trudeau. The 60s was a period of rejection, traditional values, and establishment. Again, a period of rejection and traditional values of establishment. People challenge authorities, and people start to challenge the social inequality that's taking place. Okay, challenge authorities and challenges towards social inequality. And people had political change desire as well. In other words, like I like to sum it up, it challenged the status quo found in Canada's citizens' voices as they begin to create their own or their Canada. Okay, so they started taking things into their own hands. They want to see change, and people started to challenge the law, the authorities, the government, so that everything would reflect their values, so that they can create Canada based on what they want. So again, people voice does matter. Okay, so that was kind of in the 60s. What else happened in the 60s? Well, again, background content. 1962, we had an immigration policy reform. We had a new flag in Canada in 65. 1966, a national health care, something that we have today. 1966 as well, we have a Canadian pension plan being finalized. And 1969, the criminal code was reformed as well. So again, a lot of changes started to emerge in the 60s, okay, in terms of Canada overall. All right, I think we'll stop it there for tonight. We'll continue next week, week number 5, looking at 1960s, the province of Quebec, and what happened in that fun little province, and so forth, okay? And then we'll look at assignment 7, then we'll look at free trade, and then wrap things up by looking at assignment number 8, okay? Are there any questions? Again, thank you, Laura, again, for taking that initiative, calling in, coming to class. That's great. Continue to do so. Okay, that goes towards everyone as well. Any questions, everyone? Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns? Anything that you want to share? I noticed that Team Canada just won right now. 2-1. Big news. Congrats to Team Canada on winning the World Cup. But are there any other questions in regards to PLAR history or even geography right now? Are you still there with us, Laura? Yeah? Awesome. Any question before we call it a night? Again, thanks so much for calling in, taking that initiative and responsibility, and coming to class. I know it's late in the day and way past some people's bedtime, definitely past my bedtime, but anything else you want to share or have any questions before we call it a night?
No.
No? So your papers are no longer confused?
I don't know.
No? Okay. Hopefully you're not confused, okay? I don't want you to be confused, all right? So again, if you need any help, just let me know. Can't emphasize it enough. Can't emphasize it enough. All right, Laura, I'm gonna call it a night. Again, thank you for listening and joining us tonight. And I'll stop here for tonight, and I'll see everyone next week on Tuesday. Bye, Laura.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Have a good night.